Hello, welcome to Biology, the scientific study of life. Mendel and the gene idea. One possible explanation of heredity is a blending hypothesis, the idea that genetic material contributed by the two parents mixes in amino analogous to the way blue and yellow pants blend to make green. This hypothesis predicts that over many generations, a freely mating population will give rise to a uniform population of individuals. However, our everyday observations and the results of breeding experiments with animals and plants contradict such a prediction. The blending hypothesis also fails to explain other phenomena of inheritance, such as traits reappearing after skipping a generation. An alternative to the blending model is a particulate hypothesis of inheritance. The gene idea, according to this model, parents pass or discrete heritable units, genes that retain their separate identities in offspring. An organism's collection of genes is more like a deck or cards, or a bucket of marbles than a pile of paint. Like cards and marbles, genes can be sorted and passed along generation after generation in undiluted form. Let's talk about Mendel used the scientific approach to identify two laws of inheritance. Search method, crossing pea plants, application by crossing meeting two tree breeding varieties of an organism. Scientists can study patterns of inheritance. In this example, Mendel crossed pea plants that varied in flower color. Notice the technique also. First step, removed stamens from a parable flower. Second step is, as it's shown here, transferred sperm-bearing pollen from stamens of white flower, egg-bearing carpel of purple flower. Third step, notice that pollinated carpel matured into wood. Third one, planted seeds from wood. Results: when pollen from a white flower fertilizes eggs of a purple flower, the first generation hybrids all have purple flowers. The result is the same for the three, or for the reciprocal cross, the transfer of pollen from purple flowers to white flowers. Notice the first generation of spring. Another or law of segregation. Notice here in when first F1 short term, the long term is first filial generation. When F1 pea plants with purple flowers are allowed to self-pollinate, what flower color appears in the F2 generation? Experiment. Notice that the experiment the breeding purple flowered pea plants and white flowered pea plants were crossed, symbolized by X here. The resulting F1 hybrids were allowed to self-pollinate or were cross-pollinated with the other F1 hybrids. Flower color was then observed in the F2 generation. Notice that P generation through breeding parents, and notice that generation 1 F1 hybrids, all plants had purple flowers. Generation 2, the result is both purple flowered plants and white flowered plants appeared in the F2 generation. In Mendel's experiment, 705 plants had purple flowers and 224 had white flowers, a ratio of approximately 3 purple and the 1 white. Notice also the characters or character. Another experiment or result of Mendel's crosses for 7 characters in the pea plants. Notice as shown here. Another also experiment, Mendel's law of segregation. Notice the result also, random combination of the gametes results in the 3-to-1 ratio that Mendel observed in the F2 generation. Notice that also genotype and phenotype and genotype. Phenotype versus genotype. Grouping F2 offspring from cross for flower color according to phenotype results in the typical 3-to-1 phenotype ratio in terms of genotype. However, there are actually two categories of parable flowered plants, PP small homozygous and P small P capital heterozygous. Notice that 1-to-1 the ratio, and this one genotype, and the phenotype is 3-to-1, 3 purple and 1 type. The test cross, this is the research method application. An organism that exhibits a dominant trait such as parable flowers in pea plants can be either homozygous for the dominant allele or heterozygous. To determine the organism's genotype, genetists can perform a test cross technique. In a test cross, the individual with the unknown genotype is crossed with a homozygous individual expressing the recessive trait white flowers here in this example. By observing the phenotypes of the offspring resulting from this cross, we can deduce the genotype of the parable flower parents. Notice the results also. If PP, then all offspring parable. Notice that P small, B capital, P small, and P capital, P small, boom. If B small, B capital, then half offspring parable and half offspring white.